Nick Gill, the man of many talents. How's life treating you, mate?
Yeah, great. Good at the moment. Yeah. 43 years old, got 2 8-year-old twins, beautiful wife who's an absolute genius. Yeah, good times.
How's the studio going?
Yeah, good. Opus Productions, we've been kind of tentatively going for a few months now. As of, Feb 2026. We haven't done the hard launch, to use relationship terminology.
Okay.
But yeah, just ticking away, getting some clients through and making some beautiful music with some wonderful local Newcastle artists.
Nice. How did all that come about?
The studio. So Matt McLaren, for anybody in Newcastle, knows him. He's just a world-class keys player, puts on a great show, plays some amazing live music. And he's been running a studio called SM Productions for about 10 or 12 years. And then I finished up radio full-time about 2 years ago. And we thought that we'd been making music together, me as a client and him as the producer, for quite some time. And I'd been dabbling away producing stuff for a while. And we thought we'd join forces and get a bigger, better studio and try and get a full complement with, like a full live band room and a good vocal booth and a podcast room and like a nice mixing room in a nice space in Mayfield. So got together and built the thing across the course of 2025 and then kind of soft launched late last year.
Beautiful. How's the transition been going from radio to that? I guess you're working for yourself now.
Yeah, look, the thing is that I love radio.
Yeah.
I really do. And it was just like a super fun career to have. And when I finished up at radio, there's probably only 1 or 2 things in the world that I would think is more fun than radio.
Right.
And I'm doing one of them.
Great. What's the other?
The other one is making music.
Yeah.
Like being able to make music for myself and for other artists and things like that. There's no amount of hours that I can sink into it where I get sick of it.
Yeah.
And now I get to do that full time and it's the best. So the transition away from radio was sad, but then being able to replace it with another great passion has been, pretty fun.
When you like started your studio, were you making it in mind for a place where you can express yourself creatively, or like what was that process like?
What we wanted to create was, it's on a busy main road in Mayfield and it's flanked by like a convenience store and a hub of various things. We wanted to create a sanctuary inside a busy place for musicians to feel like it's the perfect creative space. So that was really the vision for starting up the studio. We wanted people to come in there and be creative and feel as though it doesn't matter what level you're at or what level your ideas are at, we can make them a reality. So if somebody comes in and they know where every single drum hit goes and every horn line and every bass line, if they know everything, that's fine. We can take it all in for you and we can make it sound good. But then if you come in, a lot of people come in and they've either got just lyrics, like no melody, no chords, nothing. You might come in with just like a phone recording of yourself with a hook idea or something. Then we love being able to write with you and creating the music from scratch as well. And then what we're trying to do, I feel, kind of sacrilegious saying this in another brilliant studio in Newcastle, I must say. Sure, we love Sawtooth.
Yeah.
We want to set ourselves apart from going snout to tail in the sense that, whatever level of idea you've got, we'll make that a reality. But then we're also helping with the release strategy as well, because we've released so many songs of our own that we've got to the point where we understand what release strategies work, how to get yourself seen by the right people and stuff like that. So we can sit down with the artist and go, if you've never released a song, this is the way to get the best chance. We can't guarantee, obviously, that it's going to fly, but to give it the best chance to be heard by the most ears that you can.
Are you just guiding people through that, or are you kind of like coming on board as like a distributor and or a label and helping them like actually doing the work?
No, we're very wary not to be a label and do the work for them.
Right.
We like to give them the tools to be able to do it for them. We're not interested in becoming a label or a manager or a distributor or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we can tell them the tools in order to be able to get seen by the most eyeballs and heard by the most earballs.
And that's just part of your own like trying to what would you say?
It's just
Individualize your studio?
Yeah, pretty much. So, people, particularly who are very green, can feel comfortable to know that I think a lot of studios and just a lot of people stop at the point where the song's mastered.
Yeah.
And they've put their heart and soul into something. And then a lot of people hold on to this mastered thing that they've put their heart and soul into, sometimes for years.
Yeah.
We've got artists who have had stuff for like 4 or 5 years because they're too scared to not give it the best chance. They're like, I put so much into this. I don't want to just throw it out into the ether and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So they hold on to it until everything's set. And so we want to break down that fear so that they can give it the best chance and they can understand what they're going to do once the song's been released and how it can be, playlisted on platforms and how you can find ways to promote it that are creative rather than just mind-numbingly putting up videos on social media and stuff like that.
And did that come about from you just releasing your own stuff?
Yeah, so mainly through the Quackers, which is a kids band that I'm a part of, and we've released nearly 100 songs now.
100?
Over the last 5 years or so,
Really? Yeah.
And, we've got a lot more in the pipeline. And, when you've done it that many times, you start working out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And the sad reality is that even once you get good at what does work, stuff still doesn't necessarily fly. We're still probably only like a 1 in 7 hit rate of getting like playlisted on certain platforms.
Yeah.
And you never know what works. You like sometimes spend hours and hours, meticulously getting what you think is a brilliant song, and then you release it and it's just an absolute flop. And then others you've written and recorded in 2 hours and they fly, So you don't know what's going to actually work from a content point of view, but we've learnt what'll give it the best chance.
Focusing on that content, tell me, how much of it do you think is in trying to predict what the audience wants or just creating the best song you can and it gets released at the right time? Is there timing? Is there I don't know, you hear these people saying like, I want to make a video, it's going to go viral. So do you want to make this and your passion is just being received by the audience and that's why it goes viral? Or have you just predicted that that's what they want to a T?
So I'll say 2 things on that. The first thing is that most of the tools that we give you is not necessarily like going viral or social media based or things like that. It's more the back end of, streaming platforms and video platforms and things like that, as opposed to telling you what sort of content's going to work for you.
Yeah.
But then the second side of that is it's really tricky to know what's going to fly, right?
Yeah.
Like you would know. You've released a bunch of stuff as far as videos goes, and sometimes I'm sure you put your heart and soul into stuff and it hasn't gone as well, and then other stuff it's been really throwaway and it's gone really well. But as far as musical content goes, I personally think that if you're into it, then you'll find an audience for it.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm more asking, so when you say out of like your stuff, there's 1 in 7 hit.
Yeah.
Are you starting to see that one that hits, like looking back at it, was that something that was just, I don't know, just come from the ether, or were you just trying to really craft that to be one that hit?
No. So one of the songs in our top 5 as far as like streams and views and stuff like that is this song that we got a grant for a 5-song EP. And anyone that's written a grant knows that you have to do everything absolutely to the letter of what you said in the grant application, right? And by the deadlines and all this kind of stuff. And we're in the studio and we'd done our 4 songs for the 5-track EP and thought that we'd written on the grant that it was a 4-song EP. And what happened was we were like, hold on, I've just reread, making sure that we're ticking all the boxes. And I was just like, oh, crap, we need another song. And so in 24 hours, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to make something, just produce it at home rather than in the studio and just tack it on to make sure that we'd complied to the grant. Sorry if there are any grant writers watching this. We put our heart and soul into everything. We just threw it on. And that song, the other 4 that we spent months and months on, didn't fly. That song that we tacked on and home produced is in our top 5 like all time songs. So no, not necessarily. But what I think generally works, I think that one's a bit of a funny example. What I think generally works for most artists is, as I said, if you're passionate about the song and it means something to you, listeners can hear that either subconsciously or otherwise. I think that you can tell when somebody has bought into a song, as opposed to reverse engineering a track and going, what does the audience want to hear? You know, what kind of phrases can I make to make it appealing to a mass audience? What kind of stuff can I do to make it go viral from a musical standpoint?
People know.
People know. If it's disingenuous, people know.
Yeah.
And if you believe in it, then I think you'll find your audience. Maybe it's not going to be like a massive Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift level of audience, but you will start finding a passionate niche if you're passionate about the stuff that you're doing, as opposed to trying to appeal to somebody on a mass scale and competing with the people who are doing that.
So with the song that you went and wrote in 24 hours, did you already have that somewhere? Like, did you have lyrics down for it somewhere or a beat or?
Mate, it's a kid's song, right?
Yeah.
But
still, like, I just want to know, like, where do you think this comes from? Like, talking about creativity.
So I mean, I've got, like any, I think, artist would. Sorry to get my phone out, but just to illustrate the point.
Notes?
I've just got Notes app with song concepts on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And exactly. For films, I'm sure you do. And it is this endless stream of just like, you know.
And did you go back to that?
And I went back to that. And then I've also got, you know, hundreds and hundreds of voice recordings of little ideas. And I make sure that I meticulously catalog them in the sense that I name them in an intuitive way so that when I go back to it, if I've got 4 songs on an EP and, you know, 2 of them are educational and 2 of them are action songs as far as kids' music goes, then I know that I don't want educational, I don't want action songs. Maybe I want a food song or something like that. And so I'll name all my voice memos like food song idea, blah, 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 or fun melody, blah, blah, blah. And then you can go back to it. And I think as far as creativity goes, it is so much easier to kick off when you've got a base as opposed to looking at a blank page.
Oh, for sure.
And going, all right, I need to write a song about something. What do I do? If you've got any seed of an idea, I'm sure you find that with script writing and films and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
I first just work out the structure.
Yeah.
Before I write anything, before I even name anyone, it's just like, this: what's the structure we're following? And then I'll work out the beats and we'll work out then how do we get from this point to this point, and then all of a sudden you start filling in gaps and it's all just there.
So by the time you get to the script, I assume that it's
all
really
out.
just filling in
everything.
lines.
Yeah. So I'm writing a script at the moment.
Yeah.
And everything has just been, like, I worked out the opening image, like the midpoint, the ending, and then I start like, what's the catalyst and what's the character's wants and needs, and I just start putting it all in kind of order, and then like a scene does come to mind, and I'll just go, what's going to go somewhere between here or between this point, and then eventually I've got this full structure, all the main beats are laid out, the character arc in my head, it's all clear, and then I start writing.
So do you find pages are the easiest part, or do you still find that as a challenge?
Like an empty page?
No, like when you're actually writing the words of the characters.
No, that's all pretty. That comes pretty. I guess when I work out who the character is, what they want, it just kind of starts. Yeah, I just get in that kind of flow state where I just start. Things just come to me. I've got a bit of a. I'll go out and sit there and have a cigar. Do a little ritual. I'll sit there and have a cigar, and then I'll get me notes up, and I'll just ideas just come to me, and just no idea is a bad idea, and I just put them all in, and eventually like they would just turn into another one, another one. Finish the cigar, and then I just go into the room, and I can just write for hours.
How'd the cigar thing start?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think because I'm just always so busy. Yeah, it just gives me an hour where I just stop.
Yeah. Okay.
And can just. I don't know.
It's like a mechanism to pause life.
Just pause, and it's just like a nice little transition for me. I sit there and just watch the smoke drift off, watch the trees blow, and I don't know, it kind of puts me in this calm state because I'm always just next thing, like just looking at my calendar, what's next. And like, to then just put time aside and sit down and write, it's just too jarring. Yeah. I need a little transition to get there, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
But how did like writing the kids' music come about?
So I've got, as I said, 8-year-old twins, and back when they must have been 3 at this stage. We were kind of looking, my wife Georgette and I were looking at the media that they were consuming, so TV, books, music, that sort of stuff. And we realised that, I don't know why, subconsciously it was a bit whitewashed, and I don't think that it represented the diversity that they would see in real life. And so we started going through and trying to find things that would give them an opening to be able to see more facets of life and different types of people and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we started with books, and then we looked at some TV shows and stuff like that. And then we looked at the music side of things, and we couldn't find a lot of stuff that was music that just casually, it doesn't have to be, in your face too much, but just casually, represents a diverse range of people and cultures and abilities and stuff like that. And Georgette was like, well, you're a songwriter. We've got kids. Why don't you write kids music that does what you want it to do? Mm-hmm. So we started up a band, and we wanted to be represented not only in lyrics and music and stuff like that, but also the personnel. So we wanted an array of people in the band as well to represent diversity of life. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up writing a little 5-track EP, and half of it was, songs that I think Everybody's Welcome was the first song that we released, which was just like, everybody's welcome at our house, everybody's welcome at our park. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you look like, that's fine. And then we had a song on there that I used to just sing to the kids just walking around the house with a guitar called Choo Choo Goes the Train, which is, just another boring old kids song. But, so it was kind of like half-half. And then once we had our personnel together and a bit of a flow going, we just didn't stop, and we've released – I'm a stats guy. I'm sorry, this is boring, but we've released a song on average every 22 days for the last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so –
that's great.
Yeah, just like – kids content, you just got to keep going and going and going.
Is there an end goal with it?
We would like, I don't know if there's an end goal so much. Our dream is to get on ABC TV. Mm-hmm. So ABC Kids would be really cool.
Yeah.
And we make videos and stuff to try and get on there. Mm-hmm. But it's a challenge. It's a really competitive space. And the bits that we want to get on, which are called the interstitials, which are the little bits in between the shows, there's only a few artists that are on there at any given time. Yeah. So you've got to find the right window, and then you've got to have the right content at the right time. So that's really the dream, because I think what that allows you to do as a band, a kids group, is tour nationally. Yeah. So we do a lot of shows around New South Wales where our audience is. Mm-hmm. But, it costs money to be able to go anywhere else. And if you want to tour nationally, you got to be selling out reasonable sized venues. Yeah. And to do that, I think we need to get on ABC Kids.
And he's just promoting and doing all that yourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all done in-house. Yeah. We have ABC Music as our label, but they take care of the music side of things. So any videos or anything like that. And weirdly, like you would say, well, ABC Music's your label. Why don't you just get them to talk to ABC Kids? They're two very standalone pillars of the ABC. Yeah. And so they can submit it on our behalf, but they really don't have the relationship where they're just like, hey, use these guys. So, they distribute the music, but other than that, we do everything in-house. Yeah.
And how do you find, the motivation for, I guess, the goal? Like, it started out doing it for your own children, and now that's kind of broadened across Australia. Mm-hmm. Is that just organically just kept happening, or? Yeah.
Yeah, once you put it on streaming platforms, our top 3 listening places are actually the UK, US, and Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then Australia's number 4. Yeah. So it's just grown because you just put it up there and hope for the best. And once you get on, say a spot, whatever you think of Spotify, unfortunately, it's getting some bad press, and I think understandably so. But once you get on a larger Spotify playlist, which is an editorial one, which is a human curating the playlist, then that kind of goes worldwide, and it gives you a broader audience, which is quite nice.
Yeah. It's crazy how much that, I hear so many people talking about that, getting on a playlist.
It's kind of, unfortunately, it's kind of everything for artists these days.
Yeah.
Like what I talk about a lot with the strategy sessions that I do with artists who are releasing stuff is breaking the friends and family bubble, which is the biggest challenge that you can have.
Yeah.
They're all going to, particularly at the start of your release, like when you do your first few singles, your friends and family are going to be hugely supportive.
Yeah.
They're going to listen to it. They're going to watch it. But they will, sadly, tire of you just sending them stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be supportive forever to start with.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to break and just start getting strangers listening or viewing or doing whatever you can. And the state of content is either you're really good at social media content and you can go viral and break through that way. But from a purely music standpoint, the main way that you can do that is through playlisting, whether that's on whatever playlist.
How do you find that translates?
Platform.
Yeah, how do you find that translates? So like if one of your songs get on a playlist, people just listen to that song, actually go across and go, who's that?
Yeah.
And then start following all your stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty small, particularly we find a big challenge for kids' music specifically is that the kids are listening to the music and they're watching the videos, say, on YouTube, but who's on Instagram?
Yeah.
That's the parents.
Yeah.
So you've got this weird case where you've got to write the music for the children but do the social media content for the parents. And so as a result, kids aren't listening to stuff and following anything up.
Yeah.
Most of our audience are 3. They can't even read what the song's called.
Yeah.
So no, the carry through for any kind of following on social media as a result of your music is just tiny.
Do you ever write with knowing like the parents are listening to it too? Like if they're going to play it in the car? Like I watched some Pixar stuff when I was in London. I took a friend's kid out.
Yeah.
And we went to the movies and watched a Pixar film, and I was sitting there and all the kids were loving it and all the adults were loving it too.
Yeah,
and I'm like, they've mastered it where it's just as entertaining for the adults as the kids.
But I think that's changed as well. So one thing I noticed was, Pixar films, I like when the kids are watching, I'm like, oh, yeah, what's going on? This is a goodie. But I think it's changed a bit. What they used to do, have you ever watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit with an adult? So that came out when I was a kid, right? And I thought it was hilarious and I didn't notice anything. I watched it as an adult. The sexual innuendo in that film is rife.
It's a lot of stuff.
It is everywhere.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice that as a kid.
Yeah.
And that used to be the thing. It used to be like a wink to the adults, a little bit of blue content that the kids won't get. But now Pixar's good at the generic content that the parents love and the kids love. But to answer your initial question, yeah, we absolutely do. So from a music perspective, we don't want it to be just repetitive and like Baby Shark sort of territory.
Oh.
Most successful song in the history of the world, but we don't want it to just be single idea repeated so much that kids are just going to love it. We want parents to enjoy the music in the car. Yeah. And then for probably about 50% of our songs, we try and chuck in at least a tiny little bit of content for the parents who are listening as well, just to have a little bit of a laugh. So a small example that pops to mind is we've got a song called Ride My Bike, pretty deep stuff. It's about riding your bike. But there's a line, all the lines are echoes. So it's just like, let's ring our little bell, let's, turn, let's turn. But then there's one which is, let's listen to our parents. And then the echo goes, no, let's do a skid. So it's like just only a tiny thing, and it's not going to be hilarious. It's not going to be belly laughs from the parents, but it's just like, kids are going to do their own thing. Yeah. Yeah, that sort of stuff we like to incorporate in the songs. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you write much for not kids' music?
Yeah, heaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you prefer?
Like genre-wise?
Yeah.
Anything really. Yeah. What I love about working in a studio now is that you don't choose the genre.
Yeah, okay.
They come in and they're an R&B artist, and so you've got to help them write an R&B song, and then you've got a folk artist, and then you've got a rock song, and then...
How often are people coming in and not having like their stuff written?
It's just different levels of not written. So I've got this one artist, and she is an absolute jet. She comes in with full lyrics, an idea of how the song could sound, and a melody, right? But she doesn't write chords or arrangements at all.
Does she play an instrument?
Yeah, she plays guitar, but she doesn't write the chords. And she comes in with these fully realized tunes, but she has no idea what the backing track is going to sound like.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild, right? But the melody is all there. So she's got the tune of the words, but she has no idea what the underlying chords are going to be, which can go in so many different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, you're like, well, is this like a balls out, distorted guitar rock song? Or is this like a Dua Lipa, rich with strings, pop and dance beat kind of stuff? You've got so many options to do it. So that's kind of like one level of where people come in. Yeah, some people come in with just a voice memo and all they've got is like a hook, like a single hook.
How do you approach that?
Well, often a good way to do it is to either just ask them what their vision is for the song, and they'll often have a reference track. Or tracks. So they'll come in and go, oh, I really love how, like Olivia Dean's Man I Need sounds. I'd love that soul sort of sound, that neo soul kind of sound here. And then you work around that and you work around, what the structure, the chords and melodies and stuff like that would be like inside of that genre. But obviously making it original to what they would like. But then, and then you have artists who really picky, and I don't mean picky in a bad way, like they know what they want.
Yeah.
And they know every sound that they want, and you've just got to try and find what's in their head and get that onto the screen or into the speakers.
Who do you prefer working with in them scenarios? Like someone who's got it all laid out and you're just trying to bring that to life, or someone that just has no idea?
I genuinely love both. Don't want to sit on the fence here.
Yeah.
But I think my passion for music is writing.
Yeah.
Producing I love. It's really cool. But being able to start with a seed and then I don't know, I love the audio equivalent of whatever a before and after shot is. Yeah, like we had this voice memo and now we've got this radio ready song. That's so cool.
One of my favorite points in making a movie is once we go to picture lock, it goes off to get sound, and it goes to Anthony Marsh. He will go do all the sound mix, or we'll take out all the wind. Like he will just clean up all the dialogue and mixing and make it all perfect. And at the same time, it goes to Sid, who does all the music composing and writes our score.
Yeah.
And our process is, I'm probably that person that I'm sitting there saying, imagine two big rocks sliding against each other, and I'm just talking absolute gibberish. But somehow he knows the sound that I've got in my head, and he'll bring it out and play it and put it in, and I'm like, that's the world. Now we just make me feel like I want to vomit, but at the end of it, and then he'll just do something else. I'm like, that's it. And it's incredible. Then it goes to the mix with Ant. He mixes it in. It comes back. It's a complete different film. The pitch hasn't changed, but it just brings it to life.
Yeah.
The story's just there now.
Yeah, the sound and the music and everything changed. Like if you just changed the background music or sound effects of any scene with the same dialogue, executed the same way, it totally changes the vibe of the scene. Yeah. And getting that idea out of your head and into somebody else's like speakers is a wild skill on like the sound effects people and stuff like that. And it's cool to hear that can happen. But one of the funnier examples is, we had an artist come in and he's like, I really want an electric seagull sound. It's like, sure, like what's an electric seagull? He's like, it's kind of like, but it's not a bird. It's like electronic sounding. It's just like, sure. And, Matt had to explore what the heck that meant. And they got there.
Yeah.
Like they worked it out. And the funny thing was that the sample they ended up using, I think was called like Future Dolphin or something. It was like this tinkly sound that was kind of a really modified dolphin sound effect.
Yeah. I love watching Matt work. I was in there once and Committee was recording.
Yeah. It was Committee who asked for the electric seagull, by the way.
Oh,
I'm sure he wouldn't mind telling.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was watching them work and just watching Matt do his thing is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Wild. He's like, world class at what he does.
Yeah. And they're both in Quokkas.
Yep. So, Committee Levi and Matt McLaren, both in the Quokkas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other two are Pam Hyde and Steph Towle.
Yeah.
Yeah, make up the five.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What about your time on radio?
What about it?
How did that all come about? Because you went from playing AFL
Yeah.
to working at Channel 7.
Yeah, correct.
And then went into radio.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the timeline. So what happened was I played a bit of Aussie rules. I wasn't that great at it, but in my last year, I broke my leg. And
it's always an injury.
Well, it wasn't the injury that did it. It was my lack of skill mainly. But because I was 27 and I'd busted my leg and I was going to be out for the rest of that season, I knew that the writing was on the wall. I was like, I'm not a talented enough guy to just be sitting on the sidelines for a year and then to re-contract me.
Yeah.
So what I did was while I was still on an AFL list, I threw my hand up to do some free work for a TV station, for Channel 7. And just learn how to be a sports journalist. And at that stage, they want an AFL player in the building because he's a player for the Adelaide Crows, so I can be valuable to them, but they're valuable to me. And then when, as predicted, I was delisted at the end of that year, I was just like, hey, I've been doing a free internship for 6 months for you. Can you give me some work?
Yeah.
And so I became a Channel 7 sports journo and then kind of met some people in the media and realised that sports content is probably not my content. I would be better placed to do general stuff.
Yeah.
So I started doing some free shows for like the radio station SAFM in Adelaide there.
Yeah. What made you want to go to like journalism in the start?
Why did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I just enjoy creating stuff.
Yeah.
But I found that sports journalism, though enjoyable, wasn't as creative as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know enough about it at the time to realise that. But I realised that radio would give me that outlet that I was looking for. And so, did a late night show, 10 p.m. Mondays, prime time.
Yeah.
And with a very talented girl who now works in Brisbane called Abby Coleman. And then after a year, I just, had kind of made mates with the national boss and said, I want a breakfast show somewhere. I'll go anywhere just to, cut my teeth. And then he said, there's a job coming up in 2 weeks in Cairns. The co-host has just left. Do you want to do that? And I was just like, yep. 2 weeks later.
Just move it up there.
I was in Cairns, started a breakfast show up there, and then, started
Were you with your partner?
I was with a partner, not my current partner.
Yeah.
And we did long distance for a year.
Yeah.
There. And then, radio I really loved it. And then, went from Cairns to Hobart. What did I do? So it was Adelaide, Cairns, Hobart, back to Adelaide, then Newcastle.
I didn't realise you moved around so much.
Yeah, it was 4 states in 4 years there at some stage.
Wow.
Because the challenge of radio, right, is that if you're on a breakfast show, particularly in a regional market, that's the show that you want. So there's no, like if you're doing well, there's no better job to go for. It's not like, I'm a salesperson and I'm going for the manager job or something like that. You've got the show that you want. So the only way that you can progress or regress in radio is to change the size of the market that you're in.
Yeah, right.
So if you're doing well in some place, then you just often get poached to a bigger market.
And do you got to wait for someone to leave that station?
Yeah.
So it's very dependent on everyone else too.
Yeah, but there's always movement at the end of particularly the 2-year contract cycle. There's always
What type of pressure do they put on people for like views? Like if your ratings are dropping and stuff, is that like a thing?
Depends on how regional you are. So the Central Coast, for example, only get ratings once a year. So however you go, that's how you're perceived to have gone for the next 12 months. In some stations, so in Cairns, you got ratings like every 3 years or something. So if you have one good ratings period.
What do you mean by that? Like every 3? They only release the ratings every 3 years?
No, so to be able to get ratings, all the radio stations that are in a certain market, excuse me, that are in a certain market need to pay, an assessment company.
Oh, really?
To come in and do the ratings.
So you can't just live see who's tuned in and listening?
No. Digital is allowing that to happen more.
Okay.
But for the broadcast radio that just goes over the airwaves, no, that's a survey done, like a physical survey, a piece of paper that people have filled out, extrapolated out to the population.
Wow.
So even
I didn't know that.
So even to this day in Newcastle, where they have 3 surveys a year, that is somebody going door to door, mostly, going, hey, can you please fill out this form over the next month for me?
Really?
And then they're going, well, between 6:30 and 9:30, I listened to Hit 106.9, then I switched to Triple M for an hour, and then I didn't listen to radio for the rest of the day. And then...
That's what they're going off.
Yeah. And when you think about it, if you got a form like that, right, and you agreed to do it, you're a busy guy. How do you think you'd go at filling out every minute that you listen to radio.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. So a lot of people would, at the end of the month, go, oh, gosh, Joey's coming back to pick up my form today. I haven't filled out anything. So you're just like,
chuck it in.
Just like chuck in vague ideas of what you were listening to when. And then that is what radio hosts are living and dying by.
Is that still the case?
Yeah. Yeah. Like if your rating's going terribly, your show will be axed.
But I mean, like when you're at 106.9, was that still how they would measure it?
Yeah. It still is now.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So to answer your question about how much pressure they put on you, if you're in a place like Cairns, like what pressure can they put on you? There's a month every 3 years where they will put all their resources in and like do the biggest, most memorable content arcs and things like that to try and get the listener to listen to you. But the most important thing is that they remember the station they were listening to because they got to write it down. So billboards and stuff, I don't think there's been a billboard in the world for a radio show that's made you go, they look like nice people. I'm going to change stations. But what it does do is make you go, oh, that was hit 106.9 I was listening to. That's Nick, Jess and Ducko, or that's still what they're living and dying by.
Yeah.
But you've got to try and make them remember that show. That's what the billboards are for. That's what, all the advertising for. And that's why at the start and the end of every single live break you hear is it's hit 106.9, you're with Nick and Jye, and then you'll go into whatever you're talking about. And then just before the song, you're on hit 106.9.
Yeah, okay.
That's just memory. Like people aren't listening to it. It's just washing over them. So they've got to remember what they're listening to.
You're right.
Yeah. So no, there's not a lot of pressure put on you in the regional markets. In the metro markets, it's insane. You get a survey every 6 weeks.
Wow.
And you will be dragged into the manager's office every 6 weeks and pore over the numbers. Like, okay, our time spent listening, which is obviously how long people have listened to you per day on average, and your cum, which is the cumulative audience, how many people are listening to you. They're the two main factors. They'll go, oh, okay, well, our 18 to 24 bracket has gone down 40%. So how can we target the 18 to 24-year-olds? Looks like our, 35 to 44 males have dropped as well. What are we missing there? That's much more. That's much more strict.
The pressure's on.
Yeah. And Newcastle's somewhere in between. They have 3 surveys in a year.
Yeah.
They'll look at the numbers. They'll break it down. They'll try and work it out. But if somebody knew what worked every time, they would just do that. Problem is that nobody really knows what's actually working and what's not.
When you're doing the morning show at 106.9, did it feel like journalism?
No, not really.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was just really fun. It just felt like 2 or 3 mates, depending on the show.
Yeah.
And
do you
just having fun in a room.
Do you like that feeling more, or do you like the idea of like being a journalist more?
It's funny. I like being a real fence sitter here. I'm sorry, but I like both aspects. So at the moment, I'm doing some casual work for the ABC.
Yeah.
For their radio arm in Newcastle.
Yeah.
And that's very much more journalism.
Yeah.
I did the breakfast show a couple of weeks ago, filled in for Paul Culliver, and his show is very, very local and very journalistic. So he's looking at local issues and he's speaking to people at the heart of those issues.
Yeah.
And pretty much the entire show is interviewing somebody who is either an expert or somebody with some skin in the game of the issue that they're talking about. And I really enjoy that. I love interviews and I love trying to get to the bottom of something. Mm-hmm. But also for the 8 years or so that I did here, man, it was fun to just sit in a room every morning with your mates and just,
it looked so fun.
Yeah, it was so good. And I was with some really great people who were super creative and fun. So
yeah,
the hours stink. You're in there just after 4 o'clock and each morning. But that's the only thing I could complain about really in the job. Yeah.
I didn't think about it a lot until I started like filming Craig Hamilton for The Promise.
Yeah.
And when that started, like we'd done a short film called the One Conversation, and like I went in like a Saturday and like filmed his Saturday morning breakfast show.
Yeah.
And just from like being aware of you guys and how much fun that looked, to then like filming Craig and listening to the people call in, and I was like, wow, they're like trying to uncover stuff here and get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
It just felt so different. But yeah, I don't know.
It is, but different horses for courses.
Different audiences.
Different audiences, yeah. And so like the ABC audience doesn't want to hear people laughing at everything and, fart jokes and sex jokes and stuff like that. That's not what their audience is for.
Yeah.
So when you asked before about music, do you tailor your music to an audience? The answer is no. Radio, on the other hand, is very much what they do is you have meetings where you actually create what's called your bullseye listener. So you can picture somebody when you're talking to them. Mm-hmm. So they'll go, okay, well, we're Hit 106.9. We're slightly younger than Triple M, much younger than ABC. We're far less serious than pretty much everybody. So our listenership is going to be, because of the music that we play, it's probably going to be like female skewed, probably 18 to 39-year-olds is going to be the narrowish demographic that you're looking for. And then you come up with the bullseye listener. So you get a genuine rundown of like the bullseye listener is probably going to be a 36-year-old woman with children. Mm-hmm. They're probably youngish. They're not babies. They're not teenagers. She probably works in like an administrative role. Like this is the sort of stuff that you get for your bullseye listener. That doesn't mean that all your listeners look like that.
Yeah.
But it's somebody that you want to picture when you're delivering the content. Mm-hmm. Is Tracy, our 36-year-old receptionist with 3 children, who's living in Wallsend, is she going to enjoy this content?
How often are you thinking about that person when you're talking?
Not when you're actually executing the content itself, mm-hmm. but during your planning you are. You just use it as a filter.
Yeah.
So each morning you come in and everyone's got their content. So you go, oh, I had this story the other day of, something that my kids did. I saw this story in the news. I've got a phone topic because I was having a divisive conversation with my friends. And then you put it all into the pot and then you and the producer will work out what's going to work at certain times. So, 6 till 7 is probably going to be more tradies. They're going to be up and about earlier listening to the radio because they're going to be either on their way to the site or on site at that stage.
Yeah.
Parents are rarely going to be listening to radio when they're getting their kids ready, but they will be when they're in their car with their kids. So they're going to be more like 7:30 to 9 o'clock. And so when you're placing the show, you have your audience in mind. So you go, all right, well, let's do more tradie style content from 6 till 7, from 7 till 9. We'll do more general content that can suit that bullseye listener. But once you've put it up all on the board and you know the ideas of what you're going to do, you just do what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not thinking, oh, gosh, is this line that I'm going to say going to suit the listener?
Yeah, right.
You just say what you're going to say.
Yeah. I do remember like me and Craig were chatting. He said, what do you think the hardest thing about the job is? And I said, I don't know. If something doesn't work, you just got to keep talking, come up with just shit on the spot. I don't know, keep people engaged. I don't know. And he said, it's constantly talking so the person listening feels like that you're talking to them.
Yeah.
He goes, we might have so many 1,000 people listening.
Yeah.
But that needs to feel, and I mean, this is ABC, so probably completely different, but that personalised, I don't know, they feel special. It feels like we're talking to them, specifically one person.
Yeah, no, it's no different. We used to use the phrase the audience of one.
Yeah.
So speak to the one person that's listening, exactly as you said. There's no way for me to embellish that, but that's exactly what you want to do.
Would you just have to bring in so many stories in that each morning? Like when you were giving all that stuff to the producer, did you have quotas on?
There weren't quotas. Like you'd have lean days and you'd have big days. Mm-hmm. Some days you'd come in with 10 ideas, and then some days you'd come in with 2. But yeah, you're coming up with the content because you're the one executing it. And I think in bigger metro shows, like your Sydneys and your Melbournes and stuff like that, it's different to that. The producer comes in and they lay out the show.
Yeah, right.
So
you need a good producer.
You need a good producer or team of producers to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like the producers, I would love to say that as the on-air hosts, we do the work. We don't.
Yeah.
The producers do pretty much all the work and we just get the fanfare.
Yeah.
But the particularly like Melbourne and Sydney producers, they're going through news articles and knowing their hosts and going, well, like say Fifi Box, for an example. Fifi, I saw this news article. This could relate to that story about, your daughter. Maybe we could do a phone topic on something that happened in your life, and then you've just got to mine them for stuff. But often a lot of those bigger shows, they're coming in at 2:45, 10 to 6 before their show. And it's just on the board. Then they've got to go in. They'll get a sheet. of what each spot is, what they're going to talk about. They digest that and then they execute it, which is a challenge in itself, like an amazing skill.
Yeah.
But regional shows like Newcastle, you come in and you execute the content and you're in charge of certain spots. So when it was myself, Jess and Ducko, for instance, the top of the hour might be a Ducko spot. So I might ask him a few questions about it, but I know that he's going to drive it and I just need to pitch in.
Yeah, right.
And then the next spot, I'm doing a story about my twins. I've got to know all the beats of that story and where I want it to get to and where I want it to get out, how long it's going to be, where Jess and Ducko might go with it, which might derail it, which could be really fun, but what could happen, and then where I want it to get to so that there's like a nice laugh to finish on, and then whoever's listening goes to the song going, they're entertaining, I want to sit through this song or ads and come back to them. Yeah, so you do have to come up with all the content to answer your original question. Everybody does, but then you've got to balance the show between who's come up with the content and making sure that everybody gets a voice in that show.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Out of all the things you've done in life, what's the thing you're most proud of?
Most proud of? It's pretty boring. Kids.
Kids?
Yeah. Yeah, I love my twins. They're awesome. They're 8 years old. To watch them grow and develop and the hours and hours that you put into them as a parent, seeing them change as a result of the guidance that you can give them is by far the most rewarding thing that I've ever done.
Do you look at life differently being a father?
Yeah.
What are the main things that – I'm not a dad, so I don't know.
No, that's fine. I think your perspective changes immediately, not necessarily for the better or worse, but your values change the second that you have a child, in the sense that some things that you really, really cared about just don't matter anymore. I think that develops even further as you go along as a child, and then you may or may not know, but my daughter, when she was born, she wasn't supposed to survive, and she was supposed to live for 3 days and then pass away as a result of a congenital heart condition, and she ended up surviving. She's 8 years old now. She's going okay, and
She had to have surgery?
yeah, she had to have a couple of surgeries, and she'll still need to have some again. But yeah, had to have open heart surgery when she was 6 months old. But what that did for me was like totally reprioritize what I value as a person. Like all of a sudden, anyone who knew me beforehand was probably like, he didn't care about his appearance beforehand. But, I really started not caring about my appearance then. Not in the way that I was just going to get slovenly and unkempt. Yeah. But just like, man, that just doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Like I've got this daughter who could live or die. Who cares about that sort of stuff? It just doesn't really matter. I cared more about my physical safety and consequences of what I might do in my life as a result of physical safety, because all of a sudden I had dependence. So before that, if I busted my leg, it would be annoying for me. I'd be on crutches, and then maybe I wouldn't walk or run as well for the rest of my life. But the only person it really affected was me. Whereas now it's like, well, then I can't take the kids and do soccer with them, or I can't drive anymore, so I can't take them to the things that they need to go to, or I can't have fun with them in the way that I want to have fun with them. So I've got to look after myself more. Yeah. So that's really important to me. So, things like, it sounds so lame, but like, wearing a hat and like a rashie and sunscreen at the beach now is really important, because I don't want to die of cancer. I want to be there for them. Yeah. Doing stupid stuff like jumping off high things or trying to do a backflip when I'm skiing. It's just not happening anymore. Yeah. Because there are consequences outside of myself. I think that's the main thing that changes. Yeah.
What was that like hearing that news about your daughter?
It was hard. Yeah, easily the hardest thing I've ever heard. She was in utero when we found out. Yeah. That's 20-week scan. Oh, like she was in Georgette's belly. So yeah, it was the 20-week scan, and yeah, they found something wrong with her heart, and they could only see 3 of the 4 chambers. So chambers divided up into four bits. Yeah. And then they realised that the left ventricle, which is your heart's pump, so it's the main thing that pumps the blood through your body. It had a problem, and it was scarring over, and they expected it to scar over so badly that it would close up, and then she wouldn't be able to pump blood anymore. Anyway, yeah, to hear that The timing of it was kind of good and bad in a way. So Georgette, my wife, and I, before the baby came, we'd organised this 4-day like retreat for ourselves to just kind of like relax before the kids came. And we'd packed the car and we went to the hospital to get the scan, and then we were going straight on to this place. And so we got the scan and then got the results of that scan and found out that, essentially we were told, well, she's going to die. We just went to this like Airbnb place and we were isolated, and it was just us just trying to digest this news that we had. And it was kind of good in a way that we were away from the world, just us in our world trying to work out how we're going to tackle this, because she was a twin as well. So whatever.
That would have been so hard.
Yeah. So, in some cases, if you had this situation, some people might choose to do a late termination, to not put her through those 3 days of, pain and suffering. But she was a twin, so we didn't have the choice, regardless of which way we wanted to go with it, because it could affect the other twin.
Yeah.
We just had to roll through with it. And yeah, look, there were a lot of tears, and a lot of perspective changes on life. But yeah, obviously the hardest thing that I've ever been through.
What did that do for your relationship?
I think it was a litmus test for the relationship, in the sense that I don't think it weakened it at all.
Yeah.
But what I think it did was test it, in the sense that if you can get through that, you can get through anything.
Yeah.
Like if you can work together and work through that grief together, it's gonna that whole situation of like the surgeries and like planning a funeral for an unborn child and all this kind of stuff. It was really, really hard, but we realised that we did work through it. It really puts a crowbar in any cracks that are in your relationship, and we got through that challenge, and as a result, I think we're as strong as ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of just leaning on each other? Like I wouldn't even know where to begin to fucking navigate that.
Yeah, there was, but there was also, if I'm to be perfectly frank with myself, there was also, some missteps, certainly on my part, in the sense that, I was going through this extraordinary grief, and so was Georgette. But the way that I dealt with grief up until that point was I would kind of isolate and go quite insular and deal with the grief, and then emerge on the other side of it. But as a result of that, I don't think I personally was watching Georgette and being as attentive as I could have been as a husband, to look after her grief as well. So although, yes, we definitely did lean on each other, I personally think that I made some missteps, in the sense that I wasn't as supportive as I could have been, because I was just like, man, how hard is this for me? This grief is so hard. I better deal with my grief. But, you've got another person in your life that's going through exactly the same thing, who's the love of your life. So, it was tough.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Are you religious?
No.
Spiritual?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Did any of that come into play at all when you were going through that?
No, but...
Were there times you just wanted to pray to a God or anything?
No, not really. Probably not to sound more atheistic. I respect anybody's choices in that sense. But it made me even more sure of my atheist beliefs, because...
How could a God let this happen?
Yeah, this poor innocent girl that hasn't done anything, how could she be chosen to do whatever? But what I will say about people who were spiritual and were religious is that, not necessarily any more or less than any of our other friends, but they use that to assist us, in the sense. And I found that those people were really helpful, in the sense that they use their faith to be able to deliver to us ways that they would deal with it and stuff like that. And they were extremely compassionate and like illustrated ways that they dealt with it. And so I think that it's very helpful for them, and it was helpful for us in the sense that they showed us compassion based on their beliefs. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Do you, I kind of asked a question at the start, but do you look at life differently from just that one experience? Like, did you learn anything different about life or uncover a new perspective of life through all this?
Do you know, it was funny. I simultaneously became more compassionate and less compassionate, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So for just life in general, I started, I think, understanding people's plights a little bit more. I could put myself in other people's shoes much more, particularly people who are going through hard times. And I was much more understanding of them not being able to cope with certain situations, or maybe not being good at dealing with people on certain days and things like that. Like they're having a bad day, maybe they're being rude or something like that. I find myself much more understanding of, you know, bad drivers on the road or people who are being rude to you. Now I go, they're probably going through something, either short term or long term. That's probably why they're doing what they're doing. Maybe that's why they cut me off. They're not being an asshole. They're probably being inattentive because, like, they're thinking about the job interview that they just flubbed, or like the family member that's unwell and they didn't notice that my car was there.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. But then in the same sense, you know, I know that you spoke about your cigar before, but one thing that I was less compassionate about was people who are making bad choices. And I'm not saying that cigar is necessarily, but I was just like, you know, some of my mates who smoked, I was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
My daughter had no chance and she was already going to die.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she didn't obviously. But she had no choice to make. Life just took that away from her.
Yeah.
Whereas you are taking life away from yourself, you moron.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, I respect people's choices. If you want to smoke, go ahead and smoke. But I just found myself less compassionate for people who are making poor choices.
Well, I thought you were going to go with how did you navigate this when you're going through your thing, and although you might be really understanding someone else going through their thing, if they're upset about someone cut them off in traffic, who cares? I'm going through this.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that, like, this, everyone's issues now feel so tiny compared to what you're going through?
I am really hesitant to do that because there's always somebody with something worse than you.
Yeah.
And there's always somebody with something less bad than you.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can necessarily judge somebody based on where the ranking of what they're going through is. Because to them, whatever they're going through is serious.
Yeah.
And the best example of that is probably one that I used to feel in radio. So I used to think that I was tired because I did breakfast radio, right? And I had to get up really early. I didn't have kids or anything when I first started, and I was just like, man, how tiring is radio? I've got to get up at 3:45 every morning. And I used to think I was tired. And I used to talk about my tiredness and like I can't do it because I'm tired or whatever. And I used to see, you know, parents kind of going, you know, they were humouring me, but they didn't really believe that I was that tired. And then when I had kids and I realised what tired actually was, when you just haven't slept for 3 days, like you just haven't slept because you just are up and down with a crying baby or a sick baby or whatever it is. And then you're just like, oh, this is what tired is like. And this is why the parents have to go home early and whatever else. I found that I became more understanding of people's lesser problems, you know, lesser in the sense that, you know, didn't have a dying child necessarily because everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
And to them, that's as serious as it gets because that's the most serious thing that they've experienced. So don't judge them on their reaction to that. That's the most serious thing that they've ever faced, and they're dealing accordingly. Yeah. Yeah. So if you know general tiredness is what you're going through, then I get it. If you want to leave early today, go and leave early and look after yourself. If you've got, you know, 3 kids at home and they've all got like long-term chronic illnesses and that's what's playing on your mind every day, then totally understandable. Do what you got to do to look after yourself. But sadly, there's always going to be somebody with something worse. Yeah. There's always going to be something with something more petty.
The reason I ask is because I've interviewed a lot of people who have had horrible things happen in their lives and that never should. I've interviewed kids that have had cancer. I've had interviewed families that lost people to suicide. Like a lot of this. The thing that I see across all of them is to have that same mentality. And people that, I don't know who am I to say, but people that don't really have anything seem to be the ones that are comparing and, oh, but you don't know what, like tired, like we're using tired.
Yeah,
You don't know what's tired. And I see that a lot.
Yeah, but you don't know till you know, right? Like I didn't know what tired was until I experienced the extra level of tired. Maybe there's another well of tiredness that I can find somewhere. Maybe something else happens in my life and I'm just like, man, I wish I was as fresh as I was when I just had 1-year-old twins, one of which was sick and never slept.
Yeah.
You know, you never know. And same sort of thing. So we stayed in Ronald McDonald House, which if you don't know or anybody that's listening don't know is these wonderful charities where if you're away from your family, 100 k's away from your family or in hospital, you can stay for almost nothing at these places on site at the hospital to be near your child. Anyway, the thing is that you're staying in Ronald McDonald House with people who are away from their families with really sick kids. And so what you're doing is it really put it in perspective for you because we had a sick child who's going through some heart surgery, but then you're meeting people who are like, oh, you know, what are you guys in for? And it's just like, oh, my kid snapped his neck on the trampoline and we've been staying at Ronald McDonald House for 18 months while he goes through his rehab. We've been away from our family. We've been 300 kilometres away from our family and our house for 18 months to try and get him to be able to just use a wheelchair again. It's like, oh, okay, that's pretty bad. And then you meet somebody and it's just like, 3 of our 4 children have cancer and, you know, 2 of them are terminal. And it's just like, how are you waking up every day? You know, so that really puts it in perspective for you.
And so your daughter had surgery and everything was good. She's 8 now.
Yeah, like everything's good is probably
not a good saying.
Yeah, well, no, like she is. She's great. At the moment, she's an 8-year-old. She's on the outside a totally normal kid. She's running around. She plays soccer. She's got some friends.
Yeah.
Looks like a totally regular 8-year-old kid. But she's got a dicky heart. Like unfortunately, she'll need some more surgeries. We'll wait and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And in the next year, so what she had done was a valve replacement where they get a donor valve from a baby who's passed away, unfortunately, and then they put that in to a valve in her heart and then they move one across. The thing is that the donor valve doesn't grow with her.
Right.
So she's got a 6-month-old baby's valve in her heart,
right?
Which means she's 8 now. That's not wide enough to pump the blood the same way. So she's going to need to go into surgery to get that valve replaced again. So she'll need open heart surgery again. Risky times. And then when she's a teenager, she's got an 8-year-old valve in her heart. She'll need that replaced again to be like an adult one. And each one of those stages, you know, there's wear and tear on the heart.
Yeah.
There's risk around open heart surgery, obviously. And, you know, each time you don't know how much, but there's going to be some deterioration. And sadly, the pump in her heart is still not great. Still got some scar tissue in it. It's not a regular left ventricle. So, yeah, we'll wait and see how it goes. But she has defied the odds at every step so far. So, you know, we're hopeful. And we got to the point where Georgette and I were always waiting for her to fall over. Like we were actually under the palliative care team for that first 6 months. So every 2 weeks, the palliative care team, who did an amazing job at the John Hunter, would come in and check her vitals and be like, it looks like she probably has anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks to live. And you'd be like, okay, that's sad, but, you know, let's love her all we can and whatever. And then, you know, she didn't. So she just kept on ticking over and over and over again.
Fodder.
So we got to the point where we kept waiting for something to happen, and that took such a toll on your stress and your emotions and all that kind of stuff. And so Georgette and I sat down, we had a discussion and kind of like whipped our emotions into shape. We kind of said, if something happens, we'll get sad and we'll deal with it. If she needs emergency heart surgery, we'll do whatever we need to do in our life to be sad and get it done. But until then, we're going to just live our normal lives and act like everything is as fine as it looks and then deal with it when it happens, as opposed to spending every waking hour going, oh, what if in the next few weeks Harriet's heart goes bad, you know? And so we tried to deal with it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a bloody mission on its own to like just fight that natural emotion that just arises.
Yeah, but you can't live like that.
Yeah.
Like it would ruin not only your own life, it would ruin your kids' life as well, because you're not letting them do anything because you're so stressed about what could happen to them. So it would be so destructive that, yeah, it's hard to make that decision and do that. But I think the alternative is much harder.
That's a really beautiful outlook.
Thanks.
Do you struggle talking about it?
No.
No.
So as a result of radio, you know, your whole life is bare for whoever's listening to hear. And I spoke about when we found out the original scan that we thought our daughter was going to die before she was even born. You know, like that was broadcast because I was going to take some time off once she was born, and once, well, she was supposed to pass away. I'd booked, you know, a few months leave to just get through that. And so I needed to explain that leave to the listeners.
Yeah.
So yeah, Harriet's whole journey has been broadcast for the world to hear. And as a result of just talking about it, which I think is the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
I get emotional with it, but it doesn't mean that I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing it again.
No worries.
And just taking the time to sit down and have a chat with me. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
mate.